I want you to write me an introduction to the topic AI-written YouTube essays have eroded the feeling of real human presence. What once carried traces of thought, hesitation, and individuality is now often replaced by smooth, machine-shaped prose. The result, an illusion of intelligence without intimacy. Oh, that's quite good. Is this the death howl of the internet? I'm hearing on nearly everything I watch and within everything I read, the voice of AI. And if you listen enough, you can really feel it. Now, I'm not using AI for this video from now, yet I have no objections to people who want to use it as a tool. The problem is that I still might say things that make you think I've run it through AI, just naturally. Like, here's the catch, or that's not X, it's Y. Because I've read it so many times now. I've heard so many AI generated things. It's like picking up your flatmate's mannerisms. You can't help it. But here's the truth. And I get criticism a lot for being an artistic channel and that uses generative AI in quite a lot of my videos. I've changed the background here, I've used it for B-roll. I'm even making a video at the moment about a Lego ship I made when I was 10 that I've still got. I used woodcut, oil paint, and video of it in action as I imagined it as a 10-year-old, made by AI. So I'm not anti it. It's very difficult being an arts-based channel because so many people are. The reason I bring it up is because I've decided to push this channel out loud as quite a serious thing. And if you want to support me, you can go and help out on the Patreon with the 7 other people who are there at the moment. But the amount of slop that I'm now competing with is insane. Not only can you not tell that these words are mine, you just have to believe me. In the next 6 months, you won't even be able to tell if I'm me. So why am I bothering? And no, I'm not going to say because I want to fight back. It's fundamentally the end of something. You simply can't believe anything you see anymore. And I've been tricked already by AI videos and I thought I was smart. Soon, we're not going to know if it had any connection to what we previously thought of as real. Soon, I might be able to automate this whole thing. It can learn off my other videos and I can say, post a 20-minute video of me in my studio talking about why you should listen to me about art and AI philosophy. Make it super intelligent, send and slop straight to your feed. And maybe it's better than what I would say. But where does that leave me and my relationship with you? As even though AI is likely to undermine channels just like this one, I see a really big positive in all of this. The idea that technology will degrade both intelligence and our ability to connect is not a new one. And what seems a bit odd to me is that the very oldest critics now seem to make more sense than they ever did. The very earliest form of technology used to communicate and connect beyond being face-to-face with someone is the written word. And I remember learning at school about Socrates and how he never wrote anything down and thinking, it's a bit pretentious. I mean, he's often considered the greatest philosopher of all time, but without Plato making notes, we'd never have heard of him, so probably wasn't the best call. But I went to a talk a few months ago on AI morality at Oxford University, and there was an author in there called Carissa Belith. She talked about how finally, after a few thousand years, we are now seeing in live time how he was really onto something. True knowledge, for Socrates, existed only in dialogue, in the living tension between two living minds in the same space. When you write, your words can no longer defend themselves. They cannot explain themselves or change tone depending on who's listening. They look as though they are intelligent, but if you question them, they preserve a solemn silence. And she wrote that writing could not provide the same level of understanding and dialogue. In contrast to live dialogue, the written word lacks the ability to adapt to different contexts and therefore could easily be misinterpreted or misunderstood. Writing doesn't talk back. Because we all know, really, that communication is way more than words. We also know the words we may comfortably write about a group of people we disagree with will be often very different to how we'd speak to them face to face. And there will be keyboard warriors in this who might criticize me, who might be slightly tamer if they were to talk to me in person. And perhaps we'd find more in dialogue in common. And in an age when everyone's really siloed and lonely and thinks that half the country, in nearly every country, is evil for who they vote for, and yet walking down the street seems to have fairly pleasant interactions with everyone, when you think about what is actually real, it starts to make a bit of sense. I think this is why now internet people are more drawn to streamers and podcasters, because it feels like we are witnessing something more real, even though we're not really a part of it. And it seems like Carissa Bellis is torn because she also loves books. And she made a point similar to how I think about art, in that the act of writing is a valuable exploration of your own ideas and very helpful, but as a communicative tool is limited. Now, to kind of tie this back to my point I want to make today, I'm going to go from this high pedestal of Socrates to skateboarding. Specifically, my memories of skateboarding as a kid. Because the idea of witnessing something real, I feel, has been lost for a long time. And there's a really good parallel here if I can weave it together. Me and my friends were not very good skateboarders. We didn't really know how bad we were because we had very little to compare it to. Occasionally, someone would get a skate video and we'd pop it in the VCR, we'll gather round. And we were nowhere near as good as any of those guys. But in a group, learning to ollie off a curb, we felt exactly the same as those in the video who were watching Tom Penny fly down a 10 set. Then, our mate got a camcorder. And the moment we started to record it, it all looked awful, for one. It seemed things were much bigger and better in real life. But also, something new started happening. We stopped witnessing each other land a new trick together. Before our mate got a camera, I'll call him Jimmy here, you'd hear that he'd done a kickflip over the hip. And you'd be like, no fucking way. And we'd all cycle over to the skate park and Jimmy would do it in front of us all. And when he did, everybody banging their boards and cheering. Jimmy did a lap of high fives. You get this boost of inspiration and then you go and have a go. And then it's done. It's never revisited, and the myths of what did and didn't happen at the skate park when you weren't there all became a part of the culture. Now Jimmy had this camera, we'd be walking around school and could show people, and they would all watch it on the screen, and their reaction was never quite the same. We used to go out before because there were only 5 channels to watch on TV and mum was on the phone so you couldn't use MSN. Then you get up to Mischief, they put it in the skate park, and that was great. But then when cameras came and smartphones and we started to film it, suddenly it didn't happen unless it was filmed. Now with platforms like Sora from OpenAI that can make anyone do anything and a cat do a realistic kickflip, we might just be flipping back to, if you weren't there, it didn't happen. And that might not be a bad thing. I used to have this with my art. I'm a painter and I'd do a huge painting and put it on Instagram. And people would tell me they'd seen it, which always made me feel a bit weird because it was in my studio and no one had seen it. But when they came to have a look, they'd all have different reactions. Sometimes it looked way better in real life. And sometimes it looked way worse and it looked much better on the screen. And then I wouldn't really want to show them the real thing. And I feel like this is why the art world never really took to social media. And even today remains largely dismissed on platforms like this one because maybe they could feel the fake shine more than perhaps anyone else. And it does feel like social media shouldn't be called that anymore. It should be called influencer media or whatever. But it did start off that way. I remember getting Facebook, it must have been like 2005, and I could only match with people who I could prove I knew in real life. And stats have come out very recently that only 7% of people on social media are actually checking it for people who they actually know. Because now you use it to follow people who you don't know. But hopefully now with all these platforms and the fake pros and the fake people, it's going to kind of close the loop because none of that was ever real. The only way you actually will know how your friends are doing is to go and see them. Make Socrates happy because people are mourning for something that was never really there. And the vitriol and how siloing and self-fueling these online communities have become might prove Socrates right in that the dialogue isn't healthy. And now that AI is coming, everyone's saying we're cooked and like they've lost something in not being able to believe what they see on a screen now. Well, you've lost nothing, but it's still painful. Socrates had his other famous story of emerging from the cave, a cave where prisoners were pinned to the back of a wall by a fire, and the only forms they could see are the shadows cast by the fire. Perhaps social media is the modern cave, flickering images that are mistaken for the real thing. And Socrates talked, or rather Plato wrote about how Socrates talked, about how if you drag one of those prisoners out into the sunlight, they would rather cling to the shadows than endure the pain and the bright natural light and stillness of the truth. No likes, no followers, no pings, no shadows of connection, with only real attention and silence. Less of this, less of cave content. Socrates would say that's what this is. But I'm interested to know if you think that, and if you think there is value in videos like this, and whether I should keep doing them, because very soon you're not going to be able to tell if it's really me. And I want to know what you think. And to stop you arguing with AI bots that will appear in the comments, if you want a more direct dialogue with me, you can reply on my Patreon and I'll get back to you directly. Socrates might not say it's perfect dialogue, but if he saw the world where I can now make videos of him skateboarding, I'm sure he'd be cool with it.
I sure would. I want to thank the patrons of Art Loud.